In 2016, the world watched a quiet man from Seoul sit across from a machine. Lee Se-do, one of the greatest Go players alive, had spent his life mastering a game of almost infinite complexity, a game so intricate that many experts believed artificial intelligence would need another generation before it could truly challenge humanity's best. Then, DeepMind's AlphaGo played Move 37 in Game 2, a move so alien that commentators initially thought it was a glitch. Silence fell across the room. Then came awe. The machine hadn't made an error. It had seen something beautiful that humanity had missed for 2,500 years of Go theory. That single move did more than win a board game. It shattered a deep psychological barrier. For the first time, millions of people around the world felt that machine intelligence was no longer a distant future possibility. It had arrived. 1 year after AlphaGo, a quieter revolution happened inside the research paper. In 2017, a group of Google researchers published a paper with an almost modest title, "Attention is all you need." The paper introduced the transformer architecture. Unlike earlier neural networks that processed information sequentially, transformers could process everything in parallel, learning relationships across entire documents at once. It was not simply an improvement on what came before. It was a replacement of the underlying paradigm. It was like upgrading from a slow step-by-step reader to someone who could instantly grasp the entire context of a book at once. Without the transformer, there would be no GPT, no Claude, no Gemini, no modern generative AI ecosystem at all. Google had invented the foundation. What happened next was a race to build on it, and for several years, Google would watch others run faster on the road it had paved. OpenAI was founded in 2015 by Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Greg Brockman, and Ilya Sutskever with an unusual mission: to develop artificial general intelligence in a way that would benefit all of humanity. Its defining contribution, however, was not ideology, it was scale. GPT-1 in 2018 gave the first glimpse of what might be possible. GPT-2 in 2019 was so shockingly coherent that OpenAI chose not to release the full model, citing misuse risks. Then came GPT-3 in 2020, a 175 billion parameter model that fundamentally changed the field's understanding of what was possible. The lesson was simple and unsettling. Intelligence appeared to emerge from scale itself. In late 2022, OpenAI released ChatGPT to the public. Within days, it became the fastest growing consumer application in history. Students used it for essays, programmers for debugging, businesses scrambled to integrate it, and governments held emergency meetings. Investors redirected billions. ChatGPT achieved something no benchmark or research paper ever could. It made advanced AI feel deeply personal. People were no longer talking to software. They felt like they were talking to something that understood them. But success brought fractures. In late 2023, OpenAI's board abruptly fired Sam Altman, only to reinstate him days later after nearly the entire company threatened to resign. The dramatic episode revealed a deeper truth. OpenAI was no longer just a research lab. It had become a powerful company caught between commercial pressure, investor demands, and internal divisions between those who wanted to move faster and those who wanted to move safer. Ilya Sutskever, one of the co-founders and the man who had voted to remove Altman, eventually left to found his own safety-focused lab. The company that had ignited the AI revolution was now struggling with its own identity. The safety question had already driven one exodus from OpenAI before the Altman crisis. In 2021, Dario Amodei and Daniela Amodei and several colleagues left to found Anthropic, not because they doubted AI's potential, but because they feared it. Their central concern was alignment, the problem of ensuring that increasingly powerful AI systems actually do what humans intend, rather than optimizing for something subtly or catastrophically different. Anthropic's approach was methodical, almost academic in its rigor. Where OpenAI moved fast and iterated publicly, Anthropic published safety research alongside its models. They treated interpretability, understanding what was actually happening inside the network, as a first-class scientific problem. Its most influential technical contribution was constitutional AI, a training framework in which models learn to critique and revise their own outputs according to a written set of principles. In practice, this meant Claude models could be pushed hard on difficult, sensitive, or ambiguous questions and respond with a consistency and thoughtfulness that became their defining characteristic. The result accumulated quietly but convincingly. Claude 2 demonstrated unusually strong long context reasoning. Claude 3, released in early 2024, introduced the Opus, Sonnet, and Haiku tiers, with Opus briefly outperforming GPT-4 across multiple benchmarks. It was the first time non-OpenAI model has credibly claimed the top position. By 2025, Claude had become the preferred tool for a significant portion of professional users, writers, researchers, lawyers, analysts, who valued not just raw capability, but reliability, nuance, and what one researcher described as the sense that it was actually trying to be honest. Anthropic's partnership with Amazon, a multi-billion-dollar investment that gave Claude deep integration into AWS infrastructure, gave it the commercial runway to compete at scale without compromising its research agenda. Google also invested, making Anthropic one of the rare companies with strategic backing from two of the world's most powerful technology organizations simultaneously. By May 2026, Anthropic had established something its competitors had not quite managed: a reputation, not just for capability, but for character. In a market where every major lab claimed to prioritize safety, Anthropic had made safety legible, visible in its research, its model behavior, and its public communications in a way that increasingly differentiated it from the field. Meanwhile, Google was fighting a war on two fronts. It had invented the transformer. It had built DeepMind, the team behind AlphaGo. It possessed more AI talent, more data, and more compute than virtually any organization on Earth. Yet, in the months following ChatGPT's explosive release, the narrative was brutal. Google had been caught sleeping. The reality was more complicated. Google had been running powerful large language models internally for years. It had deliberately held them back, partly out of genuine caution around misuse and partly out of fear that a flawed public release could damage its reputation. ChatGPT forced a painful reckoning. The initial response, BART, launched in early 2023 and stumbled badly. A factual error about the James Webb Space Telescope during a live demo wiped billions from Alphabet's market cap and became a symbol of the danger of rushing to market. In 2023, Google merged DeepMind and Google Brain, two elite but previously separate research organizations with different cultures and occasional rivalries, into a single powerhouse entity called Google DeepMind, led by Demis Hassabis. This consolidation united the team that had created AlphaGo with the team that had invented Transformer, forming what was arguably the highest concentration of AI talent anywhere in the world. The result was Gemini. Gemini was a fundamentally different kind of model. Unlike competitors who added vision or audio capabilities later, Gemini was natively multimodal, trained from the ground up on text, images, audio, and video as a single unified system. This gave it superior coherence across modalities and a more natural understanding of the world. Gemini Ultra, released in late 2023 and steadily refined through 2024, became the first model to seriously challenge and at times surpass GPT-4 across a wide range of benchmarks. By 2025, Google had woven Gemini deep into the fabric of its empire, powering Search, Gmail, Workspace, Android, and Cloud. When you searched, when you wrote an email, when you analyzed the data, or when you built an application on Google Cloud, you were using Gemini. No competitor could match this level of seamless planetary-scale integration. Google's answer to who is winning was not a single benchmark. It was ubiquity. And while the world focused on the chatbot wars, DeepMind continued pushing the true scientific frontier. AlphaFold 3, released in 2024, dramatically expanded protein structure prediction to include DNA, RNA, and small molecules, a breakthrough many researchers called genuinely historic for drug discovery. It served as a powerful reminder that Google's ambitions went far beyond consumer AI. Not every major development came from the usual Silicon Valley suspects. Elon Musk's xAI entered the race in 2023 with Grok, designed to be less filtered and more culturally reactive and deeply integrated with X. Grok prioritized personality as much as performance. Musk recognized something many labs had overlooked. In a world full of increasingly competent models, people don't just compare AI by intelligence, they compare it by voice. Grok proved that personality could be a genuine competitive advantage. Then came a more disruptive shock from China. In late 2024 and early 2025, DeepSeek released a series of models, most notably DeepSeek R1 in January 2025. Using advanced mixture of experts architecture and aggressive efficiency optimizations, DeepSeek achieved frontier-level performance at a fraction of cost Western labs believed was necessary. The impact was immediate and dramatic. It triggered market shockwaves, contributed to NVIDIA sell-offs, and forced analysts to reconsider the entire economic model of AI development. Brute force scaling was no longer the only path to the frontier. And Meta took an entirely different approach, becoming the great equalizer of the decade. By open sourcing the Llama series, Meta made frontier-level weights freely available, shattering the proprietary moat built by closed-source labs. By 2025, Llama had been downloaded hundreds of millions of times. It was running in hospitals, inside startups, and on ordinary laptops worldwide. It may not have always been the most powerful model, but it was the one that brought powerful AI to the world. Crucially, 2024 and 25 also marked the agentic shift. The pivotal moment when AI evolved from simply responding to prompts into autonomous agents capable of planning, navigating websites, executing code, and managing complex multi-step workflows. Intelligence was no longer just an advisor. It had become a true participant, a new layer of the world that actively works for us. Looking back, the most surprising aspect of the decade may not be any single company or model. It is how rapidly the entire field evolved once several key ideas aligned simultaneously. The transformer provided the foundation, scaling laws provided the roadmap, reinforcement learning from human feedback made systems conversational, massive GPU infrastructure overwhelmingly built on NVIDIA hardware provided the fuel, and competition accelerated everything. Each organization pushed the others in a different direction. DeepMind demonstrated that AI could achieve genuine scientific discovery. OpenAI demonstrated that capability, productized and scaled, could reshape culture overnight. Anthropic demonstrated that safety and capability were not opposites, that the most careful lab could also produce some of the most capable models. Google demonstrated that integration at planetary scale was its own form of dominance. xAI demonstrated that personality was a product feature. DeepSeek demonstrated that efficiency could challenge economics of the entire industry. Meta demonstrated that openness was a strategy, not just an ideology. Together, they created an ecosystem advancing far faster than almost anyone predicted in 2016. If 2026 marks anything, it marks a moment worth pausing to take stock. The race is not over, but patterns have emerged clearly enough to identify who is winning and why. Two organizations stand out above the rest. Google transformed what could have been a story of decline into one of the decade's most remarkable recoveries. Its early stumbles with Bard are largely forgotten. What replaced them was something far more durable: ubiquity. With Gemini woven into search, Gmail, Android, and cloud, Google doesn't just compete in AI. It is the surface through which most of the world encounters it. Add device ecosystem depth, native multimodal architecture, and DeepMind's continued scientific dominance, and Google's advantage looks less like a product lead and more like infrastructure itself. Anthropic's victory is quieter but equally significant. It won a different race, not for distribution but for trust. By making safety visible in its research and model behavior, it built something competitors have struggled to replicate: a reputation. Claude became the preferred tool for professionals who valued not just capability but reliability, nuance, and honesty. In a crowded market, Anthropic proved that character could be a strategy. The other players each carved out their own form of winning. Grok's strongest moat proved to be voice, a distinct personality demonstrating that AI identity could be a genuine differentiator. Meta's open sourcing of Llama made it a great equalizer, choosing democratization over gatekeeping. DeepSeek delivered the decade's most disruptive economic lesson. Frontier intelligence did not require frontier spending. And Meta's acquisition of Manus signals where the next battle is headed: the agentic layer, where AI doesn't just advise but act. As of May 2026, Google and Anthropic lead, but the most consequential moves may not have been made yet. The last decade of AI development was not simply a technological transition. It was a redefinition of what intelligence itself might be. In 2016, the idea that a machine could meaningfully converse, write code, generate art, explain physics, diagnose disease, and reason across domains still sounded speculative to much of the public. By 2026, it had become ordinary. That may be the strangest part of all. We expected the revolution to feel like a revolution. Dramatic, visible, impossible to miss. Instead, it arrived the way electricity arrived. First as spectacle, then as infrastructure, then as something so woven into daily life that imagining its absence became almost impossible. Lee Sedol retired from professional Go in 2019. He said there was no longer any point competing in a game where you could never be the best. It was a quiet, dignified exit, and at the time, most people saw it as a story about one man and one game. But it wasn't. It was a preview. Because what Lee Sedol felt in that moment, the strange, humbling experience of sharing the world with something that thinks differently and in certain ways better. The rest of us are now living it every single day. The machines didn't replace us, they joined us, and the world has not been the same since. So, the question we are left with is not about technology, it's about us. It is simple and it is urgent. Can we become wise enough to live well alongside the intelligence we have built? The question has no answer yet, but how we answer it will define everything that comes next. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.